everyone, my name is Brianna Wilson. I am a certified dementia practitioner and the founder of Bambu Care. So today is our Q&A series number 3 where I answer 3 of your questions. So if you would like to submit a question of your own for a future episode or series, then email us at hello@letsbamboo.com, or if you're listening to this on our podcast, you can email me at podcast@whatthedementia.com. And of course, if you're finding this on our social media, if you feel comfortable, you can leave a comment down below or you can send us a private message, okay? So as I always say, this is super informal. I have my clipboard right here with the 3 questions that were submitted for this week, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get started, okay? So question number 1 is, I'm having a problem with my loved one swallowing toothpaste and mouthwash. What can I do? So this is definitely a common problem, especially as your partner does progress through the stages. So usually my top recommendations are, 1, if your partner doesn't have like a toothpaste preference, which some people do, okay, you can try the training toothpaste that you typically use for kids that's fluoride free and it's safe to swallow. It usually recommends using about a pea-sized amount. I feel like nobody really follows that, but that is the recommendation. So you put a pea-sized amount on the toothbrush, they can brush with that. If they accidentally swallow it, it's not a big deal. As far as the mouthwash, there's a couple of options. You can just ditch the mouthwash altogether, or if you do decide to use mouthwash, you definitely want to make sure that it's alcohol-free, okay? But a more safe option would be using a baking soda mouthwash, which you can find recipes all over the internet. But essentially, it's just baking soda and water. Some recipes have salt, but baking soda and water, okay, they can swish that in their mouth and spit it out. But if they swallow it, again, it's not a big deal. It's not dangerous. Baking soda is only dangerous if consumed in large amounts because it can upset the tummy and things like that. Another option that you may or may not be aware of, because I wasn't aware of this until recently, but Listerine actually makes these chewable Listerine tablets. You chew it, you swish it in your mouth, and then you swallow it. And so they're available at CVS, Walgreens, places like that. I've never personally tried them, but that could be an option to consider. Now, if the problem is with them spitting it out, one thing that you can try is demonstrating the task. So if they can brush their teeth on their own, perfect, but if you have to set it up for them, go ahead and do that. And then brush your teeth along with them, and then demonstrate that, hey, look, when I brush my teeth, I spit out the toothpaste, okay? So they might be able to mimic what you're doing and spit out the toothpaste or the mouthwash as well, okay? So those are a few options if you're having issues with your partner swallowing the toothpaste or swallowing the mouthwash, okay? Our second question is, my mother has recently stopped wanting to eat most days and often just wants to sleep and sleep. Is this normal behavior or a sign of something being wrong? So this question is twofold because it could be a sign that something is wrong. We always want to eliminate issues with pain, infection, medication side effects, or depression, because with all those things, there can be an increased onset of sleep, of not wanting to eat, and this is more sudden. It's less gradual, okay, when there's issues with these types of things. You'll notice that for some reason today, mom is now sleeping a lot, and there's kind of that pattern. So it's kind of like mom was just fine, now she's sleeping a lot for some reason, and now she's not wanting to eat, okay? So those are definitely things you want to rule out: pain, infection, medication side effects, and depression, okay? Because when people are depressed, they don't want to eat, and they sleep a lot sometimes, or they have difficulty sleeping, or they eat too much. So it's just kind of something you want to rule out. But as far as someone with dementia sleeping a lot and eating less, when we're talking about stages 6 and 7, especially as we get towards the mid and late part of stage 6, and definitely once we get into stage 7, there will be this increased onset of sleep, okay, and this decreased need for food. So you may find that they're refusing food and water a lot more often, and that they're just wanting to sleep. okay? Something else you want to consider if the problem is mainly with them not wanting to eat, you have to consider, are they fond of the food that you're preparing? Are they able to swallow the textures of the food that you're preparing? Because sometimes people will refuse the food if they just don't like it, like how it tastes, or if they're anxious about having to swallow it because they've been having difficulties, which as dementia progresses, especially when we get into those later stages, their swallowing will become impaired, okay? Another thing that you want to take into consideration when it comes to sleeping is that people who are bored tend to sleep. So you want to make sure that your partner is getting adequate stimulation, because if you think about it, if you're just sitting and you're watching TV, if you're engaged in the TV, right, you might sit and watch it. But if you're just sitting there and there's nothing stimulating or engaging, you're likely going to go to sleep, okay? So we just want to make sure that it's not due to boredom, okay? But in general, once you get to those later stages of dementia, sleeping more and eating less are very common, okay? Now, kind of going morbid here, but as far as how long can someone survive without food and water, someone can survive without food much longer than they can survive without water. If a person is not taking in any water and none of the food that they're eating has any, water in it, then the average is 3 to 4 days, okay? So a person can live about 3 to 4 days without water on average. Some may be less, maybe some more, okay? But on average, 3 to 4 days without water, okay? So hopefully that answers your question. I would definitely try to rule out those things that I mentioned. Again, pain, infection, medication side effects, depression. If there's one component more so than the other, you want to make sure they actually like the food that you're cooking, that they're okay with the textures and can swallow it. And then if it's sleeping a lot, you just want to make sure that it's not because they're bored or they're not engaged, okay? And then the last question is, should I put a camera in my loved one's room or is it a bit much? So I'm not really sure the context of this. So I'm not sure if your partner is living with you or you're living with them, or you're doing kind of like long distance caregiving right now where the person is living on their own and you have your house, but you want to keep an eye on them throughout the day or at night to make sure they're safe. But let's just say that they live with you and they have a room in your house, okay? There's definitely nothing wrong with putting a camera in the room, okay? Because if you ask for permission, they're likely not going to remember even if they told you yes or no. So if it's for their safety and not just for you to be nosy or for the wrong reasons, then definitely put a camera in the room. I really recommend cameras all over the house, different vantage points, and even outside. It's just safer that way, okay? But I will say, when you choose to put a camera in someone's room, you have to accept whatever comes with having a camera in that person's room. And when I say that, really what I'm talking about is masturbation, because some people are really shocked when they see their parent or their spouse or whoever masturbating on camera, which is a very normal thing, okay? So just keep in mind that if you set up a camera in someone's room, you can't be surprised by what you may see, okay? You definitely want to respect their privacy in general. Like if they're doing something that you can tell they're trying to do privately and it's not causing them harm, you don't have to just keep staring at the monitor, okay? You can go about your business, check back on the monitor later, okay? But as a general rule of thumb, cameras are definitely not a bad thing. They can make sure that you're keeping an eye on your loved one, that they're staying away from hazardous things, that they haven't fallen. If they need your help, you can see that they need you, those types of things. So there's definitely nothing wrong in general with putting a camera in your partner's room, okay? So that's all 3 questions. Again, if you have any questions that you would like to submit for our Q&A series 4 for next week, email me at hello@letsbamboo.com or podcast@whatthedementia.com. And until next time, bye guys.